Hey, how's everybody doing? Welcome back to the Hot Rod Workshop. Today, we're going to tackle the Workbench quick change stand. Before we get started, I'd like to thank Rob over at Rob's Rod Shop for hooking me up with a nice set of gloves. Now, these are really nice to have, especially in my field, if you're looking to look less like a homeless person. So rummaging through the pile of scrap at the 9 to 5 gig, I stumbled across this motor plate. So the plan here is to utilize 1.5 inch angle, 3/16 thick as pegs staggered on the way down of this motor plate mounted onto the wall. And we just need 2 feet with adjustable, or 2 legs with adjustable feet for the bottom. So we can place it up against the wall, secure it on the top, and it should be a pretty nice storage spot for when the tools for the Workbench quick change aren't being used. Now we can use our angle finder to determine the angle in relation to the wall where we want our tools to be resting at. And I think we should be, let's say about 65 degrees. Now in situations like these, I like to utilize the T-bevel to give me the correct angle every single time for repeated cuts with the cutoff wheel. So I like to grab a piece of scrap steel larger than what I'm cutting, utilize the speed square, use the pivot point on the corner and the degree markers on the outside, find our 60 degrees from that pivot point, just about there, and mark the scrap piece. Probably can't see that, but make your mark, bring in your T-bevel. Now you can set your T-bevel to that degree. And now you have the repeatability of bringing this T-bevel up to the 1.5 inch angle and getting the angle correct every time. All right, so we got our measurements all placed onto the 1.5 inch angle. So we'll go ahead and cut all these out, round off all the corners. We'll bring up the big motor plate onto the workbench here, wire wheel all that, and we'll be able to set all these in place. All right, so we got our base all cleaned up. Got our 1.5 inch angle pegs cut out, ready to go. We got our legs and our gussets ready to go. So the next step would be to level out the base. All right, so I determined my spacing for each peg, laid a line to keep me nice and square, squared up the entire base of the table. So now we're gonna tack up our pegs, check for square, and check our fitment with the tools first before we go and finish weld them to make sure that the spacing will work. Now that we have the top section tacked in place, we can utilize our angle finder again to verify the angle. Seems a little not quite steep enough, so we'll bend it a little more to get us to 60, which is where we want it to be. Seems like it'll work. Now from here, you can tack the upright in place. Before we do that, we're going to reset our T-bevel, so we don't have to go back to the angle finder every time. We can just throw the T-bevel on it, tack it in place, and move on to the next one. All right, got the pegs all tacked in place. Angles are pretty consistent, nice and square with the edge of the base plate. I double check to make sure that the spacing is okay, that the tools won't interfere with one another. So we'll go ahead and finish weld these on, then we'll reposition the base plate to set up for the legs. So the pegs are pretty much ready to go. Now we're gonna start venturing down the road of the legs. Just gonna be a simple 1x1 box tubing with a gusset on the top. I'm gonna cut 4 1-inch pieces out of this 1/4-inch rod and weld one on the back and the front. That'll help absorb any abnormalities in the floor and make it as level as possible. The floor isn't too bad in the corner that I'm putting it in, but in case it's a little bit off, that 1/4-inch rod spacing should be able to absorb it. I want to keep this 45. One quick way to have a tool ready for it is set up your square on the table or something straight. Set up your T. Lock it in place. There's your 135 to check the outside. There you go, tack it from there. All right, we got the base back up on the table, leveled it out, threw a couple quick welds on the gussets, and we're squared up with the rest of the base. So we'll throw some tacks on here, check for square, throw a couple welds on, and take a look at what it looks like up against the wall. That's it. Good girl. All right, I think that's the general concept. We're just kind of tacked together with heavy tacks to see if it'll work. It's leaning slightly forward intentionally just for the weight. Gonna have some mollies on the top. Gonna utilize that motor base foot so I can secure it to the wall for safety reasons. But the general concept is there. It'll work. I'm using inch and a half angle for the sake of the box tubing not spinning, and I can set it at whatever angle I need for the tool to fit. But it'll work just fine for where it's at. I think this is a good spot for it right next to the lathe. I kind of had to clean up this area. It's where I had my trash can originally. But that's the general concept. Just a pegboard really for the tools for the quick change. So since the proof of concept is there, we can go ahead and finish weld it. And it'll be one more thing to paint come springtime. Well, it's getting kind of late. Time to button her up. Gotta get started on dinner. One for the road, why not? Thanks for watching. Cheers.